Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to bring you guys my most recent favorite books that I have read off of Kindle Unlimited. I will leave a link down in the description below if you do not know what Kindle Unlimited is, but it is a subscription service that I am absolutely obsessed with. I am so glad that I decided to get it back in January, I believe, of 2021. I have been using it so much. There are so many amazing books and authors that use Kindle Unlimited, and I am just so grateful for that. So I haven't done one of these videos in a while. I will link my most recent one that I did up in the cards above. I believe I did that back in like mid-November. So it's well past time that I make another video about KU books that I absolutely adore. I've given all these books 5 stars. I highly recommend all of them. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump on into it. First series that I have to recommend is Juliet Cross's Stay a Spell series. So I just found out today that this series has been put onto KU, which is so exciting. This is truly my favorite paranormal romance series of all time. So I'm just gonna hold up book 1, which is Wolf Gone Wild, but this is a series that takes place in New Orleans. For those of you guys that don't know, I am from the New Orleans area. I live here and I just love the New Orleans vibe. I feel like centering a paranormal romance series in New Orleans is like the perfect setting. It's just, it fits so well. I adore Juliet Cross's writing style. This centers around the Savoy sisters, who are all witches. So I have read books 1, 2, and 3. So that's Wolf Gone Wild, Don't Hex and Drive, and Witches Get Stitches. There's also a novella bind up called Walking in a Witchy Wonderland that I read and really enjoyed. And then book 4, which is Always Practice Safe Hex, is coming out very soon. I adore these titles that Juliet Cross comes up with. These are truly some of the best paranormal romances that I've read that have a small town feel and that are still very sexy. So I feel like a lot of small town romances tend to be a bit conservative when it comes to like the spicy times, but like just know this series completely delivers on that front. Next series and author that I have really been enjoying is the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. So I have read books 1, 2, and 3. In this series, we have Brutal Prince. So this is a mafia romance series. I am just obsessed with Sophie Lark's writing, and I love her as a person and an author so much that I've definitely been like savoring my experience of reading her books. I try not to read like more than maybe one of her books per month because I don't want them to be over. But yeah, this is book 1. This is Ada and Callum's story. This is a hate to love arranged marriage story. My personal favorite of the series that I've read so far is Stolen Air. This is Mikolaj and Nessa. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Also involves Mikolaj kidnapping Nessa. And Nessa's a ballet dancer and choreographer. There's just so many things to love about this book in particular. And then book 3 that I have read is Savage Lover. Unfortunately, this is my least favorite of the series so far. I give it like 3.5 stars. This seems to be like everybody's least favorite book of the series. It's not because of the couple that this centers around, because Camille and Nero are like an iconic couple. I love them so much. It's just that there was kind of a weak plot with this one, but I still highly recommend this series as a whole. I think I'm gonna read book 4, which I think is called Bloody Heart, pretty soon. I also recommend the audiobooks as well if you want to go that route. Next up, we have Mr. Romance by Lisa Raven. So this is a series of 2 books. There is a 3rd book that is set to come out at some point in the future. It was supposed to be published in 2021. It never happened. I don't know if this author is even active on social media or anything, so that's kind of sad, but I did really love these 2 books. So the first book in this series centers around the hero, who is Mr. Romance. He is essentially a guy who gets hired by women to make their dating fantasies come to life. He can become like all these different kinds of men to fulfill the woman's desire. Sex isn't involved at all, so it's not an escort type thing, but it's truly a fantasy thing, I guess you could say. So our heroine, I can't remember her name, but she's very skeptical of this whole Mr. Romance thing. She is convinced that he is just scamming and conning these women, and so she decides to investigate him. and really interesting things happen. There's even like a plot twist involved, which I definitely didn't expect. Although maybe other readers would expect it, but for me it was a surprise. But yeah, this was absolutely fantastic. I love the idea behind this book and this series. So I do have one Jessica Cain novella to mention, that is Temp. So this one involves a cold-hearted billionaire hero, and then our heroine is the daughter of the hero's business rival, basically. And so her father sends her to get hired by this cold-hearted billionaire to start spying basically for her father. But basically the hero was on to her from the get-go, and things just go on from there. I will be honest with you guys, I have not been the biggest fan of Jessica Cain's most recent works. In fact, I haven't even felt the interest to read her like 2 or 3 latest releases. I just feel like she's getting to be a little too crazy even for me, which is really saying something because I discovered her last year. I gave a lot of her novellas 5 stars. I was loving her vibe, but now she's getting to a place that I feel like is just kind of unhinged, if I'm being honest. But this one still really worked for me and I gave it 5 stars. You definitely have the typical Jessica Cain vibe going on with this one. You know, a very possessive and obsessive hero with a more like innocent heroine, though I feel like this heroine has more of like a backbone to her and is a bit more morally gray because of what she's doing for her father and all of that. So I would recommend this one, but I will say there is a suicide attempt towards the end, so just be aware of that. This is what I'm talking about when I'm saying that Jessica Cain has become more and more unhinged, but I still do recommend this one. We have to talk about Cassie Mint. We have to. This is another romance novella author that I have become completely and utterly obsessed with over the last few months. I discovered her, I want to say last summer, and I feel like her writing has just gotten better and better and better as she's gone along, because I've read quite a few of her most recent releases and they are some of my absolute favorite things that I've read by her. But first, I need to recommend 3 novellas in her like Winter Warmers series. Essentially, she likes to release novella series that kind of center around a certain theme or idea or vibe or something like that. And so these are just all novellas that take place in the winter. First one is Thin Ice. This involves a heroine who is a part of a pairs skating team and then her coach. There's a little bit of an age gap between the two of them. That's pretty common with Cassie Mint, that the heroine is probably 10 or so years younger than the hero. This involves also a grumpy Scottish hero. This one is just absolutely fantastic. I would also highly recommend Snowstorm, which is another novella in the series. This involves a hero who is a duke and our heroine who ends up getting snowed in at his estate. And then finally in this series we have The Gift, which involves our hero and heroine who live, I want to say, in Antarctica, somewhere that's just very remote and very, very cold. And so basically they've been attracted to each other for a very long time, and the heroine decides to give herself to the hero for Christmas, and things go on from there. Also, this involves the hero and heroine both being virgins, which I love that so much, because typically with Cassie Mint, it's usually just the heroine who's the virgin, and so I enjoy when she kind of changes things up with her tropes and things like that. Another novella that I have to talk about with Cassie Mint is Big Bet. So this is one of her big boy romances. So this is just a series that has to do with larger men as the heroes. And so let me just say right off the bat, you have to read this novella if you have read and loved Hefty by Jessica Cain. I am fully convinced that this couple is basically that couple from Hefty just as adults. It is a very, very similar vibe for sure, and Hefty is my absolute favorite novella by Jessica Cain that I've read. So this involves our heroine who is a burlesque dancer and our hero who is a blackjack dealer, and they both work at the same Las Vegas casino. And just Cassie Mint writes friends to lovers like no other. Something about the way she writes like mutual pining and longing between friends is heart-wrenching in the best way possible. When I read her friends to lovers novellas, I always get like tons and tons of butterflies in my stomach and just like that achy feeling, and it's exquisite. It's everything. And then I also have to mention this series that I've been most recently reading by Cassie Mint, which is her Sweet Little Sinners series. My absolute favorite novella that I've read from this series is Honey Trap, which is also a friends to lovers story. So our heroine is what is known as a honey trap. So her job is to coax secrets and important information out of men just by being beautiful and flirting with them. And so then we have our hero Marcus, who is a private investigator, and they've been friends for a long time. They've been attracted to each other for a long time, but he is absolutely convinced that her being attracted to him is all an act because she is a honey trap. The angst and the mutual pining and longing once again is just phenomenal. Another one of the series that I have to recommend though is Hacker, because this involves a neurodivergent heroine who is a hacker. She ends up hacking into the hero's like home cameras. He's a part of the mafia, and she finds out that someone is planning to kill him, and so she sends him a warning like through his phone, and so he realizes that he's being hacked, and so he finds out who's hacking him, and so they start a relationship over the phone. And let me just say that there's a really great phone sex scene in this, but yeah, this was absolutely fantastic as well. I do quickly want to mention Twisted Hate by Anna Huang. This is an Enemies with Benefits new adult romance. This is technically book 3 in her Twisted series, but you could read this as a standalone for sure. I did talk about this book and the next book that I'm about to talk about in my best books of March video. I will link that up in the cards above if you are interested. But yes, this serves everything you could want from an Enemies with Benefits romance. This is about Jules and Josh. The banter between the two of them is everything. Just want to throw out there that there's a lot of hate sex in this. And it was everything that I could have wanted. It's a pretty long book actually. It's like 500 pages, but I think that we needed that time to develop the romance from this like enemies to maybe frenemies to lovers kind of situation, and I just thought that it was so well done. The other book that I have to mention that once again I mentioned in my best books of March video is The Weight of It All by N.R. Walker. This is just the sweetest and funniest rom-com that involves our main character Henry, who at the very beginning of the book, his long-term boyfriend broke up with him. So Henry decides to lose weight to try to get his boyfriend back. And so then we have Reed, who ends up being Henry's personal trainer. And so it's a friends to lovers romance between the two of them. It is exquisite, it's funny, it's sweet, it's everything that you could want from an friends to lovers romance. So good. And last, but certainly not least, I have to talk about the Anti-Heroes in Love duet by Gianna Darling. You can tell that when I have physical copies of certain books that I really loved them. I even splurged and got the hardcover editions of this duet because I just adored this so much. So this is the first book, When Heroes Fall, and then the second book, which is When Villains Rise. I actually loved book 2 more than book 1, which is really saying something because I also absolutely adored book 1. But this is a duet that centers around Elena and Dante. Elena is a lawyer that is on Dante's defense team because he is going on trial for a murder that he didn't commit. This ends up being forced proximity because Elena has to go live with Dante in his apartment. Dante is on house arrest. Things go on from there. Dante is my new book husband. I love him with my whole heart. He is like the perfect mafia hero because he's also very like charming and sunshiny, but yet he can be very rough and ruthless when he needs to be, and I am just obsessed with him. Elena is also an iconic heroine. I'm so glad that I finally read this duet. Basically, I did a reading vlog recently where I read some of Tori's favorite romance novels. She's from the channel A Novel Life. I'll link her down in the description below. But this is one of her favorite romances ever, and I totally understand why now. Highly recommend the audiobooks as well. They are just so phenomenally done. And I'm gonna have to reread these books at some point because that's how amazing they are. And if you're curious about what my top mafia romance recommendation would be, it is this duet for sure. And I also need to read more from Gianna Darling now that I've read this. I need to read her Fallen Men series. I also really want to read her Enthralled duet. I think it's called the Enslaved duet because That duet is actually about Elena's sister, and I need to read that as well. Okay, I need to stop talking about that duet because I could go on for hours if given the chance, but that is going to be it for my recent favorite KU books that I have read recently. I would love it if you guys would leave a comment down below if you have even more recommendations for some KU books to check out. I'm always looking to add more to my KU TBR because I want to take advantage of that subscription service. And yeah, I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!